All right. Hey, everyone, welcome back. So are you ready to geek out with me today?
Always.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun because we're diving deep into the world of camera sensors.
Ooh, exciting stuff.
It is. Specifically, we're talking about stacked sensors. Have you heard about these?
Yeah, it's like the turbocharger for your camera's engine.
Exactly.
Uh,
They're boosting the speed and efficiency without making the camera any bulkier.
hmm.
I actually asked you to share some articles with me and a YouTube video, and I have to say I'm already geeking out, so thanks for that.
Of course.
Okay, so before we get lost in all the technical jargon, what's the big picture? Like, what's the one thing someone absolutely needs to know about stack sensor technology?
Well, the biggest thing I think is how stack sensors are really shaking things up, especially for people who are shooting APS-C cameras,
Okay.
because they really have the potential to close the gap between those and full-frame cameras.
Whoa, okay. So we're talking about a potential power shift in the camera world.
Yeah, potentially.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's make sure we're all on the same page here, because you mentioned APS-C and full frame.
Right.
But what does that even mean for, say, someone who's not familiar with sensor sizes? And why should they care?
Good point. So full-frame sensors are larger, right?
Okay.
And a larger sensor generally means better image quality, especially when you're shooting in low light situations.
Makes sense.
Think of it like a bucket collecting raindrops. The bigger the bucket, the more raindrops you can gather.
Okay, yeah.
So APS-C sensors are smaller, and so they haven't traditionally been as good in those low light situations. But these stacked sensors are changing that.
So it's like these stacked sensors are giving APS-C cameras a fighting chance then against their full-frame rivals.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big deal because it's not just an incremental improvement, it's a potential game changer.
Okay, I'm starting to see why you're so fired up about this.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the specifics of stacked sensors, you mentioned BSI sensors in your notes.
Mm.
Can you quickly remind us what those are and how they kind of paved the way for this new tech?
Oh, absolutely. So BSI stands for backside illuminated.
Right.
And that was a major breakthrough when it came to sensor design because it essentially flips the sensor structure to improve how well the sensor can capture light.
Okay.
So that leads to better low light performance. It's kind of like if you open the blinds to let more light into a room.
Oh, okay. I like that analogy.
Yeah, and Fujifilm has been a real leader in this area with their APS-C cameras, and their X-T4 is a great example. It excels in low light, and that's thanks to its BSI sensor.
Got it. Okay, so BSI sensors were all about maximizing light capture.
Exactly.
And now stacked sensors are taking things a step further. Is that right?
Yeah, so we're not just capturing the light more efficiently, we're also processing it much faster. It's all about separating the workload. You create dedicated stations, so to speak, for light capture and data processing. So it's like having this super efficient assembly line inside your camera.
Okay, so I'm picturing like this well-oiled machine working behind the scenes. But let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
Like, what does this actually mean for the photos and videos we capture?
Well, one of the biggest benefits is that it allows for faster readout speeds.
Okay.
So that's going to reduce that dreaded rolling shutter effect, where fast-moving subjects can look distorted or wobbly.
Right. I've seen that.
Yeah, stacked sensors basically capture the image more quickly, and so that's going to give you these crisper, cleaner action shots.
That's a big deal.
Huge.
Yeah, for anyone who's shooting like sports or wildlife or anything where you need to capture those split-second moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
So stacked sensors are like the secret weapon.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, for anyone who needs that speed and precision. And speaking of speed, let's talk about Fujifilm, because you mentioned in your notes that they're developing a stacked BSI APS-C sensor. Why is this such a big move for them?
Well, this is where the competitive landscape starts to get really interesting, right?
Okay.
Because remember we were talking about how stacked sensors could close the gap between APS-C and full-frame cameras?
Right.
Well, it seems like Fujifilm's making a really strategic play here.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this strategic play.
Well, there are rumors that Canon is about to release the EOS R7,
Okay.
and this is an APS-C camera with their really powerful RF mount lenses.
Got it.
And so that's a major challenge to Fujifilm, who's been dominant in that APS-C market.
So Fujifilm is kind of firing back with their own technological marvel, essentially saying, hey, we're not backing down.
Exactly. This new stacked sensor positions their upcoming camera, possibly the X-T5, as a direct competitor to this EOS R7. And, if the rumors are true, We could be looking at a camera that not only rivals, but surpasses the competition in terms of speed and performance.
Okay, this is getting me really excited about the possibilities. Like, imagine an APS-C camera that can deliver stunning resolution, for landscapes, but also lightning fast performance for action shots.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, like the best of both worlds. But hold on, you mentioned rumors. Is there any concrete evidence to support these claims, or are we just, like, speculating here?
Yeah, that's a fair point. There's no official confirmation from Fujifilm yet.
Okay.
But their recent announcement about developing a stacked BSI APS-C sensor, and then you add that to the timing of the Canon rumored release,
Okay.
it definitely adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, okay, so we're reading between the lines a little bit.
A little bit.
But the evidence seems to point toward this strategic move by Fujifilm.
For sure.
And that could have a ripple effect throughout the whole camera industry.
Yeah.
But Fujifilm isn't the only one in this game, right?
Right.
You also mentioned Nikon and their Z6 III. What's their take on stacked sensor technology?
So Nikon is taking a slightly different approach with the Z6 III. They've incorporated what they call a partially stacked CMOS sensor.
Partially stacked. Okay, I'm all ears. Break this down for me. What does that even mean?
Well, think of it this way. Like if you were upgrading your internet connection,
Okay.
you might not need to overhaul the entire system.
Okay.
But a targeted upgrade in certain areas can give you a speed boost for very specific things like streaming or if you're gaming.
Right.
So a partially stacked sensor strategically stacks certain components, giving you these targeted performance boosts while maintaining a balance between cost and performance.
Oh, okay. So it's like getting the most bang for your buck
Exactly.
by focusing on the areas that matter most for performance. So what are the key benefits of this partially stacked design in the Nikon Z6 III? What are we looking at?
But we're talking faster data readout, so that translates to higher continuous shooting rates, snappier autofocus, and even better video capabilities.
Right.
This camera can shoot up to 6K 60p raw video internally.
Wow.
That's incredible for a full-frame camera in this category.
Wow. 6K 60p RAW. That's a mouthful, but it sounds like a videographer's dream come true.
Sure.
We're talking about capturing this incredibly detailed footage with a level of flexibility in post-production that you couldn't do before, right?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay, so both Fujifilm and Nikon are making some pretty big waves with their own interpretations of stacked sensor technology. But I'm curious, with all this talk about speed and performance, does that mean we're sacrificing image quality at all?
That's a great question, and it leads us to another important trend we're seeing in cameras these days, and that's this relentless pursuit of higher megapixels.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned in your notes, there's a potential trade-off there. The more pixels you try to cram onto a sensor, the smaller they become, right?
Right.
And smaller pixels have a harder time capturing light, so potentially that could lead to decreased low-light performance.
So we have this push for more detail, with high megapixels, but it could come at the cost of low-light performance.
Yeah, and it's like trying to collect rainwater in thimbles. You're not going to capture as much as you would with a bucket, right?
Right, I get that. And so this is where stacked sensor technology comes in to save the day.
Yeah. The faster processing of stacked sensors can help mitigate some of the downsides of those high megapixels.
Okay.
It's kind of like having a faster drain for those thimbles, allowing them to empty quickly and be ready for that next downpour of light.
Love that analogy. So we might be able to have our cake and eat it too. We can have high resolution but good low light performance as well.
Potentially, yes.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
So it sounds like these stacked sensors could be the key to unlocking even higher megapixel counts without sacrificing image quality.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. But before we get carried away with all these dreams of megapixel glory, I think we need to step back and address, like, the elephant in the room.
The elephant. What elephant?
Well, we've been talking about APS-C and full-frame cameras as if everybody knows what the difference is.
Right.
But for someone who's just starting out, in photography, this whole sensor size thing can be confusing.
Yeah.
Can you give us just a quick crash course on why sensor size even matters and how it impacts image quality?
Oh, for sure. So imagine a bigger window is going to let in more light, right?
Yeah.
Well, a larger sensor is like a bigger window for your camera. It can gather more light, which generally means better image quality, especially in low light. Full-frame sensors are the biggest ones that are commonly available, so they're kind of considered the gold standard for professional photography. APS-C sensors are smaller, but with all these new technology, especially like the stacked sensors we've been talking about, they're closing that gap in terms of performance.
So it's not just about size, it's about how effectively you use that space.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like these stacked sensors are giving those APS-C cameras a real fighting chance.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Me too, me too. But unfortunately, we need to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, though, because we'll be right back with more about the world of camera sensors.
More exciting stuff.
So see you in a few.
Welcome back.
So we left off talking about like the differences between full frame and APS-C sensors.
Yeah.
And it seems like these stacked sensors are like really shaking things up.
They are.
But before we get, lost in all the technical jargon,
Right.
let's bring it back to the everyday photographer, right?
Yeah.
Like, why should they even care about this sensor size debate?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean for their photos?
Well, it's all about understanding kind of the tools that you have at your disposal, right? And how they impact your creative choices.
Okay.
Full-frame cameras have been the go-to for professionals for a long time because of their superior low-light performance and the ability to create those images with a shallow depth of field.
Yeah, that blurry background,
Yeah, exactly.
a good look.
Yeah, it is, but APS-C cameras are becoming increasingly capable, especially with these new sensor technologies.
Okay, so there are creative implications here,
Yeah.
but are we talking about like subtle differences that, maybe only a pro would notice?
Right.
Or these things that like the average person scrolling through Instagram is going to be like, oh, I see the difference.
That's where it gets interesting because, with stacked sensors, the differences in image quality between APS-C and full frame
Yeah.
are becoming less noticeable, especially for like everyday photography.
Okay.
You might not see a huge difference in a photo that's shared on social media, for example.
Right.
But if you're printing large images or if you're really like pixel peeping
Yeah.
at 100% magnification, then you might notice subtle differences in detail noise levels, particularly in those low light situations.
Okay, so it's kind of like choosing between like a sports car and a luxury sedan.
Ooh, I like that.
Both can get you where you need to go, but they offer like different driving experiences and they cater to different needs.
Yeah.
But for a lot of photographers, those subtle differences might not be a deal breaker, especially when you consider, the cost and the portability advantages of those APS-C cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget about the crop factor that comes with APS-C sensors.
Yeah, the crop factor.
Because they're smaller, they effectively have a narrower field of view compared to full frame.
Right.
And this can be a huge advantage for certain types of photography, like wildlife or sports, where you need that extra reach.
Yeah, to get closer to the action.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like having a built-in teleconverter giving you more zoom without having to like lug around a heavier lens.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big win.
It is.
For anyone who values portability, right? They
Yeah.
don't want to break their back carrying gear.
Exactly.
What about video, though? We touched on the Nikon Z6 III, its impressive 6K raw video capabilities. But are APS-C cameras keeping pace when it comes to video?
Absolutely. We're seeing a huge surge in demand for these hybrid cameras
Right.
that can capture both stunning stills and like cinematic quality video.
Right.
And stacked sensors are playing a key role in this whole evolution.
Yeah.
Their faster readout speeds allow for higher frame rates
Yeah.
and resolutions,
Okay.
making them ideal for capturing smooth, detailed footage.
So we're talking about cameras that can like handle everything from family vacations to professional filmmaking,
Yeah.
all in one like compact package.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like the Swiss Army knife of image capture.
I like that.
But let's not get, carried away with all the bells and whistles.
Right.
Are there any downsides at all to this stacked sensor technology?
Well, one thing to consider is that these sensors are complex to manufacture.
Okay.
They're still relatively new, which means they're expensive to produce.
Right.
And that's going to translate to higher prices
Yeah.
for cameras that use this technology, at least for now.
Okay. So it's kind of a waiting game for the technology to become like more mainstream and more affordable.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. It always is with new tech, right?
Yeah.
What about those like massive files we talked about earlier? High megapixels, fast shooting rates, 4K, and even 6K video. It sounds like we're going to need like a storage unit just to house all of our photos and videos.
You're not wrong.
Like, seriously?
Yeah, the sheer volume of data generated by these advanced cameras is,
Yeah.
is a legitimate concern.
Okay.
And it really kind of puts pressure on photographers to upgrade their workflow,
Right.
to invest in, faster memory cards, more powerful computers, and robust cloud storage solutions.
So it's not just about the camera itself.
Yeah.
It's about having the entire ecosystem in place to handle, like, the demands of this new era of image capture.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like going from riding a bicycle to driving a Formula One race car.
Oh.
You need, like, a whole support team
Mhm.
and, like, a high-tech garage to keep things running smoothly.
That's a great analogy.
But let's not get, too caught up in the technical aspects.
Right.
At the end of the day, a camera is just a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's the photographer who's bringing, the vision, the creativity, and the storytelling to the table.
Absolutely.
I love that. No matter how advanced our cameras become,
Right.
there's still just instruments for us to express ourselves and connect with the world.
Yeah.
But speaking of expressing ourselves,
Yeah.
there's another aspect of sensor technology that I'm, like, super fascinated by, and that's color science.
Color science.
Can you explain what that is and why it even matters?
Yeah, so color science is basically the magic behind how a camera captures and processes colors.
Okay.
It's what gives each camera brand its unique look and feel.
Okay.
Think of it like a painter's palette.
Right.
Different paints are going to create different looks
Right.
and evoke different emotions.
Yeah.
Color science is kind of the digital equivalent of that, influencing everything from skin tones to landscapes.
So it's not just about capturing, like, reality.
Yeah.
It's about, like, interpreting it,
Yeah.
adding a touch of artistic flair.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any brands that, like, stand out in your mind when it comes to their color science?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fujifilm, for instance, is renowned for its film simulations,
Oh, yeah.
which emulate the look of classic film stocks.
Right.
They have this like certain warmth and richness
Yeah.
that a lot of photographers just adore.
Okay, and what about Canon? I've heard, like, great things about their color rendering, especially when it comes to, like, portraits.
Yeah, Canon is known for its accurate, like natural color reproduction, particularly when it comes to skin tones.
Okay.
Their cameras tend to produce images that are really pleasing, straight out of the camera
Right.
without needing a ton of post-processing.
What about Nikon? I have a friend who, like, swears by Nikon for landscape photography.
Okay.
He says the colors are just more vibrant, more punchy.
Yeah, Nikon has a reputation for capturing images with a boldness, a vibrancy.
Okay.
The colors tend to be a bit more saturated,
Okay.
which can work really well for landscapes and cityscapes.
So it's not just about megapixels and sensor size.
No.
It's about finding a camera that kind of speaks to your artistic sensibilities,
Yeah.
like a tool that aligns with your vision.
Exactly.
But let's not forget about Nikon's other rumored developments.
Right.
In your notes, you mentioned, like, whispers of this revolutionary sensor technology they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
What's the latest gossip on that front? What kind of problems are they even trying to solve?
Well, the details are still, under wraps,
All
but
right.
there's speculation that Nikon might be focusing on enhancing dynamic range,
Okay.
which is basically the camera's ability to capture detail
Yeah.
in both the brightest and darkest areas of a scene.
So it's about capturing more information.
Yeah.
More of those, like, subtle nuances of light and shadow that our eyes can perceive.
Yeah.
But isn't dynamic range already, like, pretty good in modern cameras?
It is.
What kind of, like, leap forward are we even talking about here?
So imagine a scene, right?
Yeah.
With a bright sky, deep shadows.
Okay.
A camera with like limited dynamic range might struggle to capture the detail in both of those extremes.
Right.
And so what happens is you get a photo with like blown out highlights or muddy shadows.
Right.
But a camera with exceptional dynamic range capture all of that detail from
Yeah.
like the subtle textures in the clouds to the delicate patterns in the shadows.
So it's like having, like, superhuman vision, being able to see the world in all of its richness and complexity.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But how do they achieve that? Is it purely a function of the sensor itself, or are there other factors at play?
It's a combination of factors, actually.
Okay.
So the sensor's design and architecture play a crucial role, but the image processor, which is basically the brain that handles all of that image data,
Right.
is equally important.
Okay.
So Nikon might be developing new algorithms, new processing techniques that can squeeze even more dynamic range out of their sensors.
So it's like this technological tango then between the sensor and the processor, just like pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's bring it back to the practicalities.
Yeah.
How does this actually translate into real world benefits for photographers?
Well, for one thing, it means you can capture more challenging scenes without sacrificing detail.
Okay.
Imagine, shooting a landscape at sunset.
Well,
You've got the sun blazing in the sky. You have these deep shadows stretching across the foreground.
yeah.
A camera with that exceptional dynamic range could capture the brilliance of the sky and the subtle textures in those shadows.
Yeah.
So you get a photo that's both dramatic and detailed.
Wow. So it's about having more flexibility, more creative control over how you capture and interpret a scene.
Yeah.
It's like having a wider range of colors on your painter's palette, allowing you to express your vision more fully.
Exactly.
But before we get too lost in these dreams of photographic perfection, we need to take another quick break.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere though.
Yeah, stick around.
We'll be right back with the final part of our deep dive into this exciting world of camera sensors. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the amazing world of camera sensors. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about stacked sensors, megapixels, we talked about color science, and even some pretty crazy rumors about what Nikon might be cooking up in their labs.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind tour.
It has, but I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface, right?
Yeah, we have.
What else is kind of bubbling up in the world of sensor technology? What are you excited about?
Well, what's really exciting is that the future of sensors isn't just about incremental improvements,
Yeah.
right? It's about entirely new, paradigms. We're on the cusp of some truly groundbreaking stuff that could redefine what's even possible in photography.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Give me a glimpse into this future. What kind of mind-blowing sensor tech is on the horizon?
So one area that's generating a lot of buzz is organic sensors.
Organic sensors. That sounds like something straight out of like a sci-fi novel. Can you break this down for me? What's the advantage of going organic?
So organic materials are incredibly flexible and lightweight. Imagine cameras that are thin, bendable, foldable even. Think about the implications for action cameras or wearable tech.
So we're talking about like cameras that could be integrated into our clothing,
Yeah.
helmets, even our eyeglasses.
Potentially.
It's like the camera becomes invisible, seamlessly blending into our lives. But what about image quality? Can organic sensors actually compete with traditional, silicon sensors?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It's still early days for this technology, but
Okay.
but the potential is there. Early research suggests that they could achieve incredibly high sensitivity and dynamic range.
Yeah.
So that could translate into, pretty amazing image quality.
Okay, so we could be looking at a future where cameras are not only more like versatile and portable, but also capable of capturing images that are even more lifelike and detailed than what we can even see with our own eyes.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's like we're
Yeah.
stepping into like this new era of visual perception.
It really is.
But let's talk about another buzzword that keeps popping up, and that's artificial intelligence or AI.
Right.
I know AI is transforming everything from our smartphones to our cars, but how is it impacting the world of camera sensors?
Well, AI is already making its way into cameras, but it's typically been relegated to software features like image recognition or autofocus algorithms. Now imagine a future where AI is embedded directly into the sensor itself.
Okay, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this. What would an AI-powered sensor even do?
Imagine a sensor that can not only capture light but also analyze the scene in real time.
Okay.
It could identify objects, faces, even emotions. Think about a camera that can anticipate your needs,
Right.
automatically adjust the settings for optimal exposure, and even suggest creative composition.
Well, hold on. Are we talking about like a camera that's smarter than the photographer?
That's the question, isn't it?
It sounds like AI could just take over the creative process entirely.
Well, that's a valid concern, and it's something that photographers are actively debating. But I think AI can be a really powerful tool for creativity,
Okay.
not a replacement for it. Think of it as like a collaborative partner, like an assistant that helps you to achieve your artistic vision more effectively.
So AI could be like a co-pilot,
Yeah,
then helping you navigate the technical aspects of photography while you focus on the creative vision.
exactly.
That's a fascinating perspective. It's
Yeah.
it's not about replacing human creativity. It's about like augmenting it, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
But with all this talk about cutting edge technology, it's easy to get caught up in the hype and forget about the fundamentals.
Right.
At the end of the day, a camera is just a tool.
It is.
It's the photographer who brings the vision, the skill, the artistry.
Absolutely.
It's a good reminder that technology can, enhance our creativity,
Yeah.
but it can't replace it. But before we wrap up this epic deep dive, I have to ask,
Agree.
what are you personally most excited about in the future of photography? What gets you out of bed in the morning, eager to see what the future holds?
Well, for me, it's the democratization of creativity. These technological advancements are making high quality image capture more accessible than ever before. And so it's empowering this whole new generation of photographers
Yeah,
to share their stories with the world.
I love that. It's not just about the technology itself.
Right.
It's about the impact that it has on people's lives, their ability to express themselves and connect with others.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into this fascinating world of camera sensors.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but my head is spinning with all these incredible possibilities.
Yeah, mine too.
It's really amazing to think about, what the future holds.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
I hope our listeners are feeling, inspired to push their own creative boundaries and see the world through a new lens, so to speak.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And who knows, maybe we'll be back for another deep dive,
That would be great.
exploring, the next generation of mind-blowing camera tech.
I'm ready for it.
I am too. But for now, it's time to grab your camera, get out there, and start capturing the world in all its beauty and wonder.
Get shooting.
Keep shooting, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Until next time, happy shooting.
Happy shooting.